I'm calling the meeting to order.
Good.
So let's see, on the agenda, we've got the minutes from October 2nd. Any comments on the minutes?
I move approval of the minutes.
Okay, I got a
I
motion.
second.
One comment, because with me, when all was said and done, more is said than done. So it says Rainier will contact, but then he saw that Nancy and other people had already written letters to the people. So I did not follow through on that, but it's still all right. That's
Okay.
correct.
Well, I mean, the minutes are okay, but
Minutes are okay.
we'll catch up with the other stuff later. Yeah. Okay, great. So, so I have a motion and a second. I gather there's no further discussion. So, all in favor of accepting the minutes? Oh, yes, right.
Yes.
I can't have to remember. We've got to go through it by roll call. So I'm going to do it by the order people on my screen. So Bill,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
Okay, yes
And
for me.
we
So,
had Linda. We had Linda a minute ago. Not that she.
she's here, but she doesn't vote on the minutes.
No, she doesn't. But I don't see her. Where'd she
She's
go?
right
Here.
She's here. We can
Right in
see.
the middle of our screen.
Oh yes. Right.
Okay, so
She was hidden by something that says mute my audio.
yeah. Okay, Nancy, that's a yes from everyone.
We can't recognize anybody because we don't look like this.
Okay.
All right, and now we get to the report on the action since last meeting. So Ryan, I think you've already started that, and I think we're all okay with the. We had sufficient contact with our.
We did get a nice response from Tammy, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I was thrilled.
I think yeah, I sent letters to Tammy and to Mike, and anyone else in touch with them?
So
We
Nancy,
got Nancy's
Linda,
letter.
yes, and the select board.
Yes.
Nancy, can I just comment briefly on
Yeah.
that? So
please.
they required some raised and sealed copies of the original home rule petitions, which has been sent up to them, and that was confirmed this last week.
Okay.
And just 2 days ago, Dina and Senator Barrett's office told me that they're in the loop now for the legislative process, and she'll keep us informed.
Mhm.
Good.
But, you know, as we said before, it's the end of the year. Wait and see how it gets slipped in and when it gets slipped in, if it's at the nth hours, as so many of the home rule petitions are.
Mhm.
So that's all. That's the latest I know.
It's basically out of our hands now, so.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you to the select board for prompt action there.
Well, it's important business, right?
Yeah.
So thank you.
But Walter had said last time that if it weren't passed before we had our next town meeting, we could always pass it contingent on the passage, which is a good thought. But I think they would have passed it by, well, I don't know. Do we need to resubmit it? Is this the end of a year for the legislature, and do we have to resubmit it next year?
I brought that. We're still working on a couple home rule petitions from FY19 with the legislature,
Yeah.
and at least for those two, they don't have to be resubmitted. This one may be in another category. We haven't gotten there yet in discussion because when we spoke to Senator Barrett's office, they clearly understood the timeline we were on, and they were very hopeful that we could get this done in time.
Mhm.
So that's where we are right now, but we'll stay on top of that piece.
Okay. In any case, I think these are contingencies that I suppose would have to deal with if if they come up.
Right, and keep it on our radar, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The other, so actually, that's a question. Have we then also covered further action necessary? Is there any further action necessary on the on our current activities?
I'll comment on that.
Sure.
I know there's nothing else that we can do right now from the select board or the town manager's office. But if they keep us informed where, we'll keep checking as we get closer to the end of the year, if we haven't gotten feedback about where it is in the process. But usually at this end of the year stuff, there's very little we can do. It's not like it's coming out of we're waiting for it to come out of the revenue committee so we can all send letters or go to the hearings or do whatever.
So it's basically out of our hands. And I mean,
Yes.
the select board's been terrific about being on top of it, and we'll just have to cross our fingers and hang on.
Yep.
I think we just hope that they put it in the stack and somebody says, we blessed this for Sudbury already. And it just goes in the stack and somebody says, let's bless everything in this stack, and they vote them all in, and that's that.
Yeah.
Hope. After all, they've got, I don't know, 15,000 bills filed, and 1,500 they've got to pass by the end of the year.
Yeah. That's the way it goes.
Okay. Well, I suppose that covers that then. Shall we move on to the new committee member or members? And we have, as we know, one opening. And we will have several openings coming up shortly.
I
think there's.
I know that the League of Women Voters at their last, whatever it was, meeting of their board or something or other, got a good pitch from Nancy, but I don't think anybody has stepped up among league members who may have heard about it. So, Nancy, was there anything else that came up that sounded like somebody maybe was interested?
No, somebody suggested the name, Ann Hayden's name, and I haven't been in touch with her, but I sort of doubt whether she would want to do it, but I will get in touch with her.
Okay.
And,
Well, yeah.
Bill, you had
Yes.
you had thought about the Pasales.
Yeah. And neither one ever responded. I'm assuming they're just not interested.
I would think they'd respond.
So did I. I wrote to them more than once. I'll be talking with them later, but I don't know what to.
Maybe tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to put them off, but we'll see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you happen to have an opportunity to talk to them anyway, it would be something to mention.
Yeah.
But I think it does sound like we're just going to find out that the answer is no.
Right.
But it's still
So
better
this
to know.
ties in, right? And maybe David, you're leading to this. Let's assume the state passes the home rule petition and this becomes permanent. The question then starts about, well, what's the purpose of the committee?
Mm-hmm.
And then I know Walter before has raised the question about whether we push for an amendment to the Constitution. I don't know if that's in the purview of the committee, whether we could do that, whether that's something that we can, we should do. We need some direction about that, I guess, about what we should be doing if this passes.
Yeah. So that actually, so let's see. That actually, I had been thinking that also might inform our search for new members. I mean, if exactly, because if the committee is going to continue, we need, well, it seems like it. I haven't had a better idea than that we're going to have to do something that actually would require a constitutional amendment. And if that's the case, we need people who have some expertise in getting a constitutional amendment passed. Well, who has that around here? But
that's a huge issue that it'll take more than us to get it to happen.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
The other thought, which is not so radical as a constitutional amendment, was to keep us in existence to tweak what we're doing now. And somebody suggested that we could submit an amendment in a year that would would keep everything in place, except it would remove the age qualification.
Right.
So that the income qualification, the time living in Concord, all of that would remain as it is. And that's an interesting idea. I mean, if as the Tax Fairness Committee, we're eager to try and lower the property tax burden on people of modest income, period, in the town, that could be a possibility. But again, the select board would have to say, we think that's a good idea. You fellows should do it or not.
And there may be legal complications too, but I mean, it is something that we did want from the very beginning. And I've sort of forgotten why it was that why we only went for elderly.
Because what we were doing was piggybacking on the Sudbury model.
Yeah.
And our feeling was, after we talked to all kinds of people, that we needed to get something passed. Let's get it passed, and then we can play with it. And we've already played with it once by simplifying the economic qualifications. And in theory, we could, if it became permanent, we could fiddle with it again by changing nothing other than the age. In other words, you'd still have to live in Concord, all of that, and you have to own property.
Yeah.
So this may tie in. Does anyone know, who first sponsored or how the state circuit breaker was put in effect, which basically is age defined? Because in fact, if that were changed, then we'd have a clearer ability to go forward. Now, again, I'm not sure that's within our purview, but I wonder how that came about. Apparently, that's constitutional to have the state circuit breaker, and it's tied into being of a certain age, right?
Yes.
Well, the Constitution, what I was going when I was in my sort of radical mode there, I was taking us back to LOLIT, local option income tax.
Yes.
And the local option income tax is not constitutional.
Right. That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only.
Yeah, that's right. So that depends on the Constitution. Yeah.
So that just simply changing the age wouldn't necessarily be any kind of a conflict for us.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that would. It does seem like that would probably not be a conflict. You don't have to. We have a lot of exemptions that you don't have to be over 65 to get. So,
Right.
The challenge that we have is that we are not allowed under the Constitution to impose a tax. Okay, we can in fact abate a tax.
Good
Right?
point.
Lots of different ways of abating a tax. But what happens with all of those things is that they don't change the fundamental approach, which is property tax based.
right.
Okay, and that's all we're doing is shifting it over. And there are many people of limited income who however, have properties which are quite valuable. Okay, the old homestead is valued at $1 million or $1.5 million, and no income to go with it, which I call the developer's security system. In any case, and this is the trouble that we run into, and so we have already, by what we've done, increased the taxes on the typical household by $16 or $25 or something like that. So we are shifting taxes around. I think it may be worth considering, as Walter suggested, that we go back to tax fairness, and we sort of say it's time to bring Massachusetts out of the colonial era of taxes. And since there's a very large number of states, I don't know, 15 or something of them, who have local option income taxes, and go back to that, because that's something which has models in other states. It may attract somebody who wants to actually get into a fight at the state level to transform something in the state of Massachusetts. We didn't get ranked choice voting, so that it's easy to confuse people about good things. But when I first came in this thing, and you may, some of the old timers on the committee may remember, I got a brochure made up that had statements by various people and so forth about creating a Citizens for Tax Fairness statewide. Now, I don't know what the select board would say if the committee decided that it really wanted to work towards a state change as opposed to a Concord change. And maybe it can't be a town committee to do that. And in fact, it might be really neat to actually be able to hold meetings in camera, how do I pronounce it? Without being assaulted for posting and whatever. I'd like to have some unopened meetings for conspiracies to change the state constitution. And that may be more efficient to not be a town committee to do that.
I want to see the minutes that reflect that thought.
Well, let's edit the minutes right away. So I didn't say that. Did anybody say that?
Didn't hear it.
Just put it down. Ryan Bucas noted the challenges of the open meeting law to major changes. Okay, something like that. Anyway, but if we really want to work towards what needs to be done, as I remember Denny McIntyre had such a very effective speech saying, all of this taxation system started when anybody's value and ability to contribute to the functioning of the community was based upon how big your farm was and how many cattle you had and so forth. And that's not the way wealth is reckoned nowadays. And so maybe it's time to actually get Massachusetts adjusted. And if in fact, I think, without reference to the actual power structure, but the demographics says actually there's more people of lower income than there are of higher income. And the higher income people have disproportionate control in the politics. But on the other hand, when you get down to the vote, maybe populism would say, okay, put it to the high income people, and you could get some mileage with this. So that's my musings on Walter's suggestion. I'm game. I'm only 80. I got a few years left, COVID permitting. Linda's smiling there because she's saying, I want to see how they're going to react to this.
You're right, I am smiling here.
But our original charge did sort of sound like it was going to be that way. I'd have to look back and see what our original charge was, but I think it did include doing that. That is making it possible for all income level. I mean, just the income level, not the age.
I think what we need to do is ride this thing through and make sure this gets passed, because we could be shooting arrows at targets we don't have yet.
Right. We still have a lot of work to do in order to get, once we get it passed, then we have to go back to town meeting. And then we have to go back to an election.
And
Yeah.
Well, that's a reason to stay in to function in any case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just brainstorm this a little bit. Let's assume it gets passed. Let's assume we reconvene ourselves to see to fire Ryan up again and make a presentation to town meeting and all that's going on. That's a raison d'etre for us to exist. At that point, we could decide whether we want to propose an amendment, which is much easier than getting the whole thing passed, to drop the age piece. That would be a reason for us to exist. And in the process of those ruminations, we could ask the select board if it has the stomach to take on something more radical than that, i.e. Attacking the Constitution to see if we could get a local option. The problem with the reason the Great and General Court was not keen about our local option income tax was, as it was explained to me by somebody, was that it tends to favor the wealthy towns. Just by the very nature of, I mean, who's going to do this? Lowell is probably not going to be big on doing it. Weston, Concord, Wayland, and so on and so forth. Or that's the kicker here. It feels unfair. I mean, I don't think it is, but that's the way it feels. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. But we could continue to exist to get the thing passed. Then we could continue to exist if the select board would like us to formulate an amendment. And then we could sort of think about what we want to do from then on.
Well, in the meantime, we can see whether we can get a critical mass of people, committee members or not, who might be interested in the broader issue of tax fairness and bringing the Commonwealth of Massachusetts into the modern era.
But probably, Ryan, at some point, this, or Linda, maybe I should be addressing this to you. At some point, the select board may want to just consider what they want us to. I mean, there are some obvious things that we need to do. But does the select board want us to think about an amendment? Does the select board want it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's likely. And also considering what the dynamics are for the state as a whole in terms of revenue right now and what their stomach is for tackling certain issues.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that here are the things we need to do. Step one, we need to monitor the present enactment to see how it runs this year with the assessors, right? And see what the results are. If there's any changes, probably not. And then prepare for the next town meeting because we're going to have to make some kind of a presentation to get the home rule. Let's assume it's passed again by town meeting, correct?
Right.
So that's the two things and then in the meantime, and we could be doing this even now, is to begin to investigate amending the home rule petition by changing the age limit from dropping the age limit from 65. Those are the things we could do. And then as a fourth thing, if we really had any stomach, we could begin to investigate a town income tax. But I think that the first three are absolutely significant for us to do. We need to monitor, we need to prepare for town meeting, and we need to investigate, I think, an amendment for 65. I think that's all within the purview of the committee, and the committees had already tried to do this at one point. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice and clear.
All right.
So I think actually we kind of go to ground here for a few weeks, waiting to see what happens in the legislature.
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot we can do. I was thrilled by the letter from Tammy because it indicated that she got it. She understood the timetable, everything about it. So that was great news. That was very helpful.
Okay. Well,
To have a motion to sort of say we now defer our next meeting to December 15th or something like that.
well, there was one more item that I wanted to get on. I wanted to just sneak in here, the chair breakfast meetings. So that's just a housekeeping thing, but they've moved the chair breakfast meeting to 9 a.m., which is nice in a way, but I have a 9:30 meeting every Wednesday at work, so it's been a little tricky managing that. So what we suggested was that we could maybe rotate the attendance of the chair breakfast around a little. It doesn't have to be the chair. So I'll be looking for volunteers. We don't have to settle this at this moment. Next chair breakfast is still a few weeks away.
If I could make just a practical suggestion. Bill, aren't you the vice chair? Am I remembering that?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Why not tab our vice chair?
Thanks, Walter.
Anything I can do to get out of work, I'm good at it.
Yeah.
You know, as an old head of school, how to do that.
Yeah. We don't have to necessarily. Yeah, right. We don't necessarily have to go through everyone. It could be one person.
Yeah, I'd be happy. I think how often is it? Once a month? Is it?
Yeah, it's once a month.
Oh,
Wednesday
yeah,
mornings.
I'm sure I could do it if that's, unless other people want to jump in, that's fine.
That's a great idea.
Okay, well, I think that's settled then.
Yeah. So will I get notices of this, David? Do you know?
I think what I need to do, I need to I'll make a note from this as fast. I need to make a note to I think it's Jeremy sends out the notices. I'll just need to reply to the last notice and say, could you put Bill Camise on the list, please?
Okay.
So you get
It's typically the third Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
but you need the Zoom invitation and everything. So yeah, I'll make sure you get I'll try to make sure you get the email.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, so I guess we can discuss our next meeting date. Middle of December is good for.
What did you say? December 15th? Is that what you suggested?
I don't even know what day of the week that is, but
Yeah, so
Not a help.
the 9th of December.
Let's find a Friday.
The 12th is no, the 11th is a
The 11th is a Friday.
Friday. The 18th, obviously.
And the
Or the
18th is
18th.
Friday.
Let's do it.
Which one? 11 or 18?
11. Gives us a little more time, and we get a report on the legislature. But by the 18th, it's Christmas, and
Right. Good. The 11th then. Sounds good.
Okay.
David, can I just ask a quick question?
Oh, certainly.
And I'm not looking for the in-depth answer. I'm just looking for a high-level answer here. I noticed that there were something like 43, 45 applications, but only 34 were approved this last year. Was there a reason for, and the number had been higher the previous year?
Yeah.
So could you just sort of quickly summarize the reason, if there's a general category, why?
Oh, that's actually a good question because I don't know the answer. I think actually that is going to be an issue for our next agenda. I will have to
Okay.
I'll have to contact the assessor's office and find out what's going on.
It's a bit of a surprise, Linda. I thought we were hovering around 40 plus. So I'm surprised it did drop.
Yeah, we had a assessor's classification hearing from the Board of Assessors at our most recent select board meeting, which is why my attention was again brought to the number. There was no explanation why. There was just a chart with some numbers comparing last year versus this year. I believe that's where I saw it. I see so many things.
Yeah. And the reason may come down to just in each, it may come down to individual cases, which is possible, although it's kind of, it is kind of an alarming trend.
It would seem to me appropriate before that meeting for the committee to ask Nancy, who's always efficient in this matters, to, on behalf of the committee, inquire of the assessor about the numbers and to give us on one side of a piece of paper a report on the numbers and why the difference from previous year. And then based on that, then the chairman could put it on the agenda for the December 11th.
Or maybe have Lane attend that committee meeting.
And he might, but the question is maybe or maybe not, depending upon whether we think that it's going to be a good use of his time.
Yeah, and it's possible that maybe he'd be willing to share some of the numbers as well, just to show how things came out.
Linda, thank you for bringing that
And
up.
some of the details.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. like we had this many people in this in this range, and
We could all see the report, but we can't talk about it.
Right.
yeah, there is a question of yeah, we don't want to be looking at individual people's applications because those
Yeah.
are confidential. So
But generalizations.
yeah, how other than that raw number, that 34, how much can we dig into the specific details without and still sanitized information that's not revealing people's
Yeah,
personal.
but he can simply say the reasons for, in general, here are the reasons for declining. without-
Yeah, at least if we know, was it income? Was it property value? Was it other assets? They have several categories in which people have to qualify still.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I've got a note to do that. So I'll contact Lane and see if I can get a better breakdown on what happened with that, because that is a large drop from last year. We did I guess when we went to town meeting, we didn't have those numbers yet.
No, we did not.
We were in the 40s.
I mean, the applications were in, but they hadn't come out with the number. Okay. And let's see, anything else that we need to discuss before we have our next meeting?
I'm worried that Jonathan isn't hearing us because he hasn't made any comments, which he usually does.
No,
Oh, you are. You are hearing us.
I think it's just a very difficult situation. I mean, I don't know whether, in fact, there's interest in modifying the state constitution, because that's the problem we originally ran into.
Right.
And if there's no real interest in terms of various government officials in changing that, then there's no point. We won't do anything in that direction. Now, what we do have is something that probably will be accepted by the government on a permanent basis when we're dealing with giving aid to people that are 65 and above who qualify from an income standpoint. But if we take that down, then I imagine it'll be at least several years that they'll want that renewed, as they did in the beginning with this thing before they finally, went forward and made it permanent for Sudbury.
Oh, good point.
I think if we submit it as an amendment, not a whole new petition, the rules are a little bit different, because you're taking something which the Great and General Court has okayed in to be permanent. We've just amended it, and if they accept that, then you don't have to go through the whole rigmarole.
If they did that, that would be pretty darn nice. They might not do it, however.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I somehow suspected that even taking the age limit out would be a larger change than
Yes.
removing the 3-year limit.
Right. The only person, the one person who was really very much in favor of a constitutional amendment was the representative from Lexington. I forgot what his name. What is his name? Do you remember? Anyway, he did a survey of the state on issues about revenue, and that was one that he was very concerned with, but he's no longer in office. So I don't know if there's anybody else who was seriously interested in a constitutional amendment.
But the constitutional amendment question is only around a town income tax, not necessarily about lowering the age.
Correct.
The
Yes.
Commonwealth already has that with the circuit breaker. They have an age discount, so you could apparently move the that or remove that. That may not be a constitutional issue.
No, I don't think it's a constitutional issue at all. Lola it is. I mean, the local option income tax.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But Jay does have a point, and that we'll have to face this later. If you were to amend the home rule petition to remove 65, they may want to impose a 3-year limit on that or something. It's a trial limit. That might be true.
I think the argument that could be advanced in terms of taking away the age limit, in fact, this could be done, by the way, by the legislature. They can do that themselves when they pass the thing, is to connect it to COVID, because there's a lot of people who have had a sudden fall in income.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this is not, it's not creating welfare states or stuff like that. These are people who are homeowners who had incomes, and then suddenly with COVID, they don't have the income. So that this isn't necessarily
Mhm.
a lifetime exemption. It's something which is based upon your income in a particular year.
Yeah, and I think actually that's a good point, and it just brings to up to the forefront because it's happening to so many people.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
but this is something that happens to people every year, even without COVID. I mean, I recall as an assessor, I mean, people lose jobs, they're unemployed for long periods of time. Some of them come before the assessors trying to find, is there any way, you can reduce my taxes because I can't afford them now, and there's nothing that they can do. And this would be something they could do.
Mm.
So I think that this might be an argument that might be worth a chat with Mike Barrett or Tammy to say what they thought about that for the legislature to improve the home rule petition. The person you were thinking of, Nancy, I think was Jay Kaufman.
Yes.
But
Right.
he's no longer there. He was very much involved in taxes at the state level. But I think if this became a special COVID provision, and it's because there are other economic shocks that affect the community, and this would be already we have people who are getting food stamps and so forth who you would not have considered ever eligible, and they have to swallow their pride and go and get it because otherwise they go hungry. And so I think that it would be, I'm going to suggest that it would be worth raising the issue of changing the age within the legislative process. Would slow things down, I'm afraid, but that's another story.
Mm.
I think you're right. I think it's worth at least trying that. I think we're sort of stuck with, at the moment, with the present, the Sudbury structure, the structure we're using. And I don't think we can go back and modify what we proposed before.
But no, we can, but the legislature can.
Yeah, that's a good point. It actually is part of the risk of what we put in the first place, that we put in this thing, and they could change it. They could change it for in the ways we'd like. They could change it in ways we don't like. It's that part is also a little bit out of our hands.
Well, that's what happened with Sudbury. Sudbury did not apply for a permanent thing. It was the legislature who took the 3-year feature of it out.
Yeah.
Sudbury didn't ask for that.
It was just a legislator from somewhere else, not Sudbury, who just brought that up.
Yeah. Why are you coming back to this every 3 years?
I don't want to sound like the cautious one here, but what town meeting approved of was us going forward with with the provision of the age 65 in there.
Right.
So trying to influence the legislature to change that could cause some trouble for us politically in the town. Maybe even more than politically, maybe legally.
As the British would say, we don't want to put a spanner in the works.
Right.
Let's get our let's get this through, and then we can.
Yeah, you need town meeting support for taking the age down under 65.
Yeah, I think so too.
That would only happen at the necessary town meeting review and town election, which is,
Good point.
it doesn't have to be done now. And we are all subject to the legislature. And
Yeah.
in fact,
Yeah.
I'm rather curious the way the law is written, that, the legislature has the right to write any law for the town, and the legislature has to approve any tax provision anyway, and they can approve or disapprove in their wisdom, and we have to live with it. So, we submit the whole town assessment package to the legislature, basically, and we have to take whatever they do without going back to anything else in the town.
Yeah, but I think I think it would be probably out of order for the committee to suggest any that we want to tweak in any way what we've already submitted. And basically, we've given them our say. We can come back next year with something new, but
Right.
we've had our shot for this year. Okay. And I think are we in agreement on that then? So that would be so I guess that would be something that will be something to consider. If the committee is going to continue, that would be one of the potential continuations. All right.
Ryan does a point. Ryan does have a point. It's possible at the town meeting, let's say the legislature passes this, the state legislature, it is possible at town meeting to have amended and send it back to the legislature again with the age 65 removed. But
But we don't have.
Don't deal with it now. No, not now.
Yeah.
No, I know.
We need the thing in place for the existing program. We don't want to.
Yeah, no, everything's fine now. But I'm just saying,
I'm going to.
Well, also, it would, the town assessor, this would mean a lot more work for the town assessor.
Good.
And so
Yeah.
we can't leave him out of it, out of the assessors out of it.
Yeah, we don't know how many people. We don't know how many people would qualify.
That's a whole other issue. That becomes more substantive. And I think
Put it
that's
another way. If it would hardly seem to be necessary for this committee or the town meeting to have to pass a special resolution to agree to be ruled by state law. Right? It's not, that's like saying, well, we're going to have to approve the sunrise. No, we are bound by state law. And you don't have to get the town meeting to approve being bound by state law, do we? I don't think so. So if the legislature in its wisdom did X or Y, we're bound by it, whether or not the town meeting likes it or whether the town votes it. Right?
That's true, as long as they frequently build in language that says that there's local option to adopt. So when you get, they make the sweeping legislative determination, but leave it up to local option to adopt. Sometimes that's the best you can get on an issue like this.
Well, I'm just talking blue sky.
Yeah, no,
Background shows where I am, and so I'm not going to be bound by earthly considerations here.
Sorry to introduce him.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
Okay, I think we beat that one to death.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much beaten the whole agenda to death.
Yeah.
I know it's been a short meeting, but that's what we had to that it just reflects the status of our job right now, I think. And I think I think we're I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn if anybody's.
So moved.
I
Second.
second it.
Okay, yep, all in favor. This doesn't need to be a roll call. I think no. Anyway, I think so. All in favor indicate your assent by leaving the Zoom meeting.
Bye, everyone.
Enjoy the good weather, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, bye.